Let's hello and welcome to Coycast, a podcast celebrating people, pop culture, and most movies. Mixing it up this week because we are celebrating people first. We're talking about our experience at the movie theater, in large part because of you, our co-host, calling in with lots and lots of questions. Haven't heard him yet, but Jake prefaced that this is going to be an episode as a bit of a sequel to last week, and we haven't really done one of those in a while, so I'm really excited. Also going to dive into a bit of news, but before we get into it, how is Jake Lloyd Bacon this week?
I'm okay. How are you?
I enjoyed your confused face because you immediately thought I didn't know what I was doing, and then you realized, like, I'm just trying to intro mix up.
I didn't know. I didn't. I wasn't confused at all.
I saw scrutinizing eyes, or maybe I just felt them. Maybe I'm tired and I feel judged.
I think you're projecting is what's happening.
I will own that.
Because right before we started recording, I gave you shit for your terrible microphone setup, which I've been staring at for months. And now I feel judged. And you're starting the episode from a position of judged. And quite frankly, I'm not angry.
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. I am angry.
He's angry at the mic.
I am not angry that you feel judged. That's what I meant by that.
Okay. Just to clarify, he's still upset. Just not at the thing I specifically thought. This is how the show's gonna go.
Anyways, 2 weeks ago, you and I chatted about the current state of the movie theater industry and movie industry, and we were flooded with hotline calls about the topic. Not a lot of questions. It's mostly just people contributing and giving us more stuff to think about and talk about. So I parsed those down because there were so many that we literally can't get to them all. But
also, you guys, I've been sharing this show a lot more and also talking about it a lot more, but it seems like people are joining. So thank you to anyone that's been sharing the show. Please keep that up. The Patreon is so appreciated, and even just people listening to this is so appreciated. So thank you to anyone who's shown the wealth.
It's incredible how after 4 years, if you just start tweeting about it, people will start listening, Coy.
It's the thing about social media is I might live on it, but it doesn't mean I'm good at it.
All right, anyways,
these things are diametrically opposed.
Before we get into all that stuff, we do have some news, don't we?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about a few really cool comic things, like actual comic-centric things. We're getting an Amazon show about Criminal, which is a pulpy noir that I adore, that you and I have talked about years ago.
Yeah, I never got around to reading it, but I remember it. I could picture the book in my head. Man, I feel like Amazon is like
killing it.
Well, or just like as far as taking that part of comics culture, like essentially not DC and fucking Marvel, and like kind of carving their own niche with comic book adaptations that are the others.
I feel like they're the big three below the big two. Like they're doing the Image, the Skybound, the Dark Horse.
And Netflix has done a bit too with oh crap! What was the
Umbrella Academy?
Umbrella Academy. Is it Sweet Tooth?
Sweet Tooth. Yep.
Sweet Tooth. And then the other one, the Miller superheroes.
The Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah, Jupiter Ascending.
But, hey, they keep trying.
But so maybe I'm giving too much credit to Amazon.
Well, I think Amazon is the successful one between The Boys, Invincible. Like they're doing the. Right. I think the Kripke sauce plus the Rogan. Like they've got a nice team over there.
Right.
But this one is going to be Charlie Hunnam in the lead, which excites me to no end because that Guy Ritchie flavor is how I feel about Criminal. Charlie Hunnam was in The Gentleman.
I know the name.
He's in Pacific Rim.
He
is Sons of Anarchy. Very handsome blonde gentleman. Also, I can personally vouch is one of the
that
most.
Guy.
Yeah, that guy. Like that
King
guy.
Arthur.
Yeah. Oh, I fucking love that movie. Charlie Hunnam is one of the most dedicated
star of Netflix's Rebel Moon.
I mean, it's a credit. It certainly is. But he's one of the most dedicated to the fans people I've ever met. He actually. Garrett Hedlund's a guy that I do interviews with now, like by request. Like I'm like one of his go-to moderators. And Garrett started doing the cons because of Charlie, because Charlie loves the fans. Charlie loves comics, loves fandom, actively recruits his friends to come do cons with him. So he's not like one of those guys that just likes it for the attention or the money. He genuinely rallies behind fandom. And I think this is perfect because Criminal's got a devout following, but it's not big two. So having someone that loves the medium, loves the fans, loves that culture, playing this character is amazing. And then it's also got frickin' Richard Jenkins in it, who I love in anything.
Yeah.
Audrey Arjona has signed on. So the cast is stacked. It seems promising.
And this is confirmed a live action, not
live action.
Oh, nice.
Wow. This all coming together this week. So I wanted to talk about it because I just think it's really exciting to talk about something besides, Spider-Man sometimes with comics. Like this is this feels like Road to Perdition where people are gonna be like, that was a comic?
Right. Yeah. 100%.
So between this cast and the Amazon brand, which we talked about at the top, this is really exciting for me.
This is a show, you said, not a TV, not a movie.
Yeah, a show, long form.
Right.
So that is the big adaptation news this week. We also got in the news of comics themselves. Department of Truth is finally coming back after like a year and a half. It felt like it just started, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Where's my baby?" June 28th, we finally get issue 23, which means it was only running for like 20 months, and then I lost like.
It didn't end in a way that felt like a part one. It wasn't like Saga, where it felt like
it literally was like, wait, am I missing my books?
Like, stay tuned for next week, and then the show disappears, or the.
Yeah, I went to the comic store for about 6 months and asked, and I'm good at, like, I do this for a living. I know where to look, but I felt I somehow had missed it because of how long it had been. So it's coming back with issue 23, and then there's a giant milestone 25th anniversary issue coming out 3 months later, and they're going to be diving into the Who Shot JFK conspiracy theory as, like, this big hub arc to bring everybody back. So that's great, because that's how the book started. Lee Harvey Oswald's one of the leads. It's a book that, I mean, you guys listeners know I enjoy, but it definitely felt like a book where, unlike Saga, which is a great example, I always know what's going on even when Saga's away, because it's like, we'll tell you it's going to be a year or 6.
Well, because they're on a specific schedule, whereas I feel like Department, it seems like maybe things just kind of got screwed up.
I feel like either like James Tynion is on 7 or 8 books, or the art is so detailed. Like something happened creatively where I will be very appreciative they didn't rush it. But in the meantime, I've been like, what?
Right. Yeah.
And it's hard to recommend a book to new readers if it's not currently going and you don't know when it's going to be back. Like I feel like I'm now allowed to talk about it again.
But you are negating the existence of people like me in that comment, because I hear that and I go, oh great, it's not active. I can catch up. And
if you had been halfway through a trade and then be like, when does it come back? And me be like, I don't know. Then it's nobody wins if you're halfway through. Like, okay, what's next?
Maybe, yeah, I get it.
2027 TBD for your trade, because I don't even know.
All right, that's fair.
And then lastly, I know we're both, I more than you, but I know you at least appreciate how insane Venom is.
No, I don't.
We got a new Venom trailer today. I thought you liked the wonkiness of the first one.
No, they're terrible.
Oh, I thought you at least saw the joy.
No,
I knew you weren't Madam Web or Morbin time, but I thought Venom was at least shared.
I mean, I would probably watch Venom before one of those other two, but that's not because it's
better. Well, I mean, it is better. It doesn't make it. Yeah. I genuinely enjoy them, like unironically and ironically, but I'm in the like 5%. I think me and Tom Hardy are the only guys that like them.
They're just so, I don't know. They don't, in my opinion, they just don't work like structurally. Like I'm just like that guy where I'm just like, yeah, nothing clicks for me at all. The logic is too great for a movie that in my opinion takes itself seriously. People are like, oh, those movies are great, they don't take themselves seriously. I was like, no, they take themselves seriously. They're just unintentionally. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a difference. Right?
I mean, there's absolutely a line you walk with meta, but I don't know where this line is.
I will say the trailer for the third one, Till Death Do Us Part, great name. If one of them or both of them don't die, then they're really screwing the pooch on that one. But the trailer for it looks fun. It makes it look like, oh, this is slightly different. We've got some zany shit. We've got the fucking horse, which is fun. We've got, Venom in a desert, riding a Venom horse. So why not? Like, the thing is that the lines make it seem like more of a comedy, and they're actually good jokes. But based on the history of the series, those are probably the best jokes.
I do think the trailer looks amazing, but is this a case of, oh my God, their trailer editor is a genius?
Right.
Because historically, a franchise, and I will say this with full open honesty, I enjoy them, but I can absolutely understand why people don't. Like there are some movies where, like, if you don't like Furiosa, I probably just don't think you're very intelligent. But if you don't like this, I get it. Like it's just not the thing that's your palate.
Sure.
This looks like it's something for everyone, not just us weirdos that like it.
Right.
So I'm really intrigued if it's cut to be an approachable version of the insanity that I'm gonna get, or if they actually refined the madness and made a movie out of the chaos that I enjoy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems to be less earnest than the first two, at least in its intent. But also, it's a trailer. You can't tell. You know what I mean? Like, it could be completely different, out of context, and who knows? But
it's lit well. It's actually shot with like, I can see what's happening. It's not doing the Hulk thing. It's not doing what Carnage did, where it's like show these blurry tentacles. Like I think it looks good.
Because you have a movie with no blood in which people are biting people's heads off.
So you can show it.
Yeah. But I mean,
directed by longtime Venom writer, which is exciting. Also co-written by Tom Hardy. So a lot of interesting little like below the line facts.
Okay. Were the first ones a different team?
First one was directed by the guy who did 30 Minutes or Less. Ruben Fleischer. Okay. I think he did Zombieland. I know he did Gangster Squad, which I don't like. Second one was directed by Andy Serkis. This one, female director, writer of comics.
Okay, I have a question though about the theme song. Does Marshall Mathers do it, Slim Shady, or Eminem? Which one does it?
Well,
they all exist now.
According to the resurgence, it seems like it'll be a Slim Shady track because he's got to die. Dude, that song is the biggest earworm in years. I cannot get that out of my head.
I like the video better than the song, but you're not wrong. It is a little bit of an earworm for sure. But also, of course, you're using fucking Steve Miller Band. Like, of course, it was an earworm before he wrote it, before he compiled it.
It's somehow an earworm and a remake and a song from the 70s. Like, it's very impressive that it's the same song, but a new song and a cover, or not a cover, a sample. Like, it's just so catchy. And I agree. I think the package of the idea, the video, and the song is greater than the actual parts.
Yeah.
But I don't dislike the song. No, I just don't find myself thinking of it as he's Eminem and he's done like 5 albums of showing he's the best there is, and now he's got like a fun dumb one. I want him happy.
I like that,
but I'm not gonna say it's good. It's just fine.
I like that I just like that he's making fun of himself and defending himself at the exact same time. I mean, it's pretty,
which is like Venom.
It's pretty great.
Is that not Eddie?
Right.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. But those are the little bits of news I wanted to dive into before we got into you guys leading us on a conversation that I'm excited to have. Because I live in LA, and that is certainly a bubble, especially about movie theaters. So I want to know what you lovelies have to say about the theater experience that you know I love more than most things. Let's head over to our hotline calls.
Let's do it.
Hey, Coy. Hey, Jake. This is Gilbert up in the Bay Area, and I just wanted to answer a couple of questions that you posed to the audience about streaming bundles and about theaters. I feel like they're both pretty easy answers, but I'll start with streaming. I don't see an issue with it. Bundles, okay, I'll save some money, and I don't see how it's like cable, because if I want to subscribe to Disney Plus, I don't have to subscribe to Max too, even though I already do. So maybe I'll just save some money. What's the problem? But as for theaters, this is something I've been recording and re-recording because I ramble, but I think it's an easy answer, but a difficult solve, if that makes any sense. Because right now, I think the issue is that on the business side of things, theaters don't offer anything of value that makes it attractive alternative to streaming. So, like, what are they offering, or what can they offer to make people want to go see theaters? Is this like gimmicky merchandise? Is it theme nights, stuff like that? And when it comes to movies, and like so many of them just feel so homogenous and kind of the same that it's hard for me to know what I should see. Like, okay, The Fall Guy looks like it could be pretty good, but it also, based on the marketing, it also looks almost indistinguishable from Roadhouse to me. Like, I don't really watch, the trailers that much, but I mean, they're both remakes of things from the 80s with attractive male leads and attractive female leads that seem to be flirting with each other, and there's action and whatever. It's so far just, I just feel like there needs to be more variety in movies, so people feel like there's something to go see that, looks unique. But yeah, other than that, that's all I can think of. I hope you have a good week, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I said, if it makes any sense. But anyway, you guys have a good week and stay sweaty.
Gilbert, sure. It doesn't make any sense, but we're going to give our thoughts anyway.
Just madness. I don't even know. No. Was he talking with those words? Is that English?
So the first thing he's referencing, what we were talking about, people complaining about like bundles happening, and they're like, oh, it's like a return to cable for streaming services, and he's arguing that it's not the same, and I 100% agree with them. Like, it's not the same. You don't have to ever bundle anything. If anything, why are you complaining that
about saving a potential 20% or something down the line?
100%. And on top of that, it's still ultimately too much for what you're paying for. Like you're getting
Sure.
like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are
At the end of the day,
ultimately
the bargain is madness.
we are ripping off the industry every month,
which is why it's dying.
100%.
Like that's the problem is it is a good deal. Like as someone who can't afford as many things as I want, I can still acknowledge that
we need
5,000 movies a month for $8 is why movies are not movieing.
Yes.
And at the same time, I also think that it isn't like cable because no one's getting paid.
Of course,
cable paid their actors.
Cable also was paid by commercials, and so
so like it's not like cable because nobody's getting paid and we're ripping things off. So yes, I agree. It's good for the consumer, but horrible for art.
So he's talking about what does the theater have to offer that's different. That's his pitch about maybe why theaters are on the decline. First, before we get to we'll go out of order. I'm gonna disagree with you on the point that it doesn't look like there's variety. I think what you're describing is kind of, if there's anything left of the mainstream studios, like this is how it always is. There's whatever is popular, there's always 4 things that look exactly like it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and then like 10 indies that are getting some acclaim.
Right. So I disagree with your intent, with your your whatever idea, your idea that things look the same. Sure, you picked 2 movies that could, in theory, look the same, but in my opinion, they are very clearly different in plot, even just by seeing the trailer. Also, if you say, I don't really watch trailers, and then you complain about not knowing that movies are slightly different.
Yeah, Gilbert.
Kind of putting your foot in your mouth there, Gil. But I do get what you're saying. I just disagree with that. That's new, because I think that's how it's always been. I mean, watch.
I look at the theater right now, and it's Apes and Furiosa and If, and obviously we're getting upcoming superhero stuff, but even just Furiosa as a blockbuster is so unlike anything else in the space.
Unique. There's definitely unique shit happening. I mean, in the past year, we had Barbie and Oppenheimer in the same weekend. Like, I mean, I don't think there's a lack of variety, in my opinion.
Personally, I agree.
Yeah.
And as much as I love, sequels and things, even the sequels like Inside Out 2 looks original within the wheelhouse of sequels.
Right. As far as what they're offering, I agree. That ultimately is a problem. And that was my big thing last week. And I think a lot of other callers today are going to touch on it, is that like capitalism, baby, and we are all consumers and everybody wants more for their buck. And what's different about going to the movie theater other than sitting in your house or then sitting in your house?
So this is where I kick back, because I think $25 a month for the most expensive A-list is $25. Most A-list is like $20 in most of the rest of the country. So if you see 2 movies, $10 is the cheapest way to go out, period. I'm sorry. Like food doesn't cost $10. Concerts aren't $10. Nothing you can do once you step through the threshold of your door is going to be less than $10.
Sure.
But I'm in LA and I go 5 times at least, so that's $5. But I understand not everybody has that kind of schedule.
You're also starting
that
argument from a place of the desire to go out and do something.
Oh, 100%. And I also hate watching movies by myself.
If most people's perspective is seeing the movie, that's the goal. It's not seeing the movie outside with other people, it's seeing the movie. And if you're comparing the cost, even like you said, it lists $25, or, if you see a couple movies, still significantly more expensive because we've ruined our expectations of what we get for $1 because of streaming services. Still significantly more expensive than $13 a month for fucking Netflix or whatever, 16, even if it's 20, whatever it is now. Still hundreds of movies and TV shows and things that are 7 hours long, 8 hours, 10 hours, He did say something about like, what about like merch and stuff? I do think that's fun and interesting.
I think that's what the buckets are becoming. Right. I think we're entering a time of...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you remember when CDs were on their way out and they started grouping DVD? Remember it was like every CD came with like, here's a concert DVD. Or here's I remember when it was like, now I can't remember what the album was. I had one album. It might have been like Alien Ant Farm's like big hit album, the second one, Anthology, maybe.
The one with Smooth Criminal on it, yeah.
Oh no, maybe it was the one after that. I think it was the one after that, because I remember if you put the CD into your computer, you can access the CD-ROM, and there was whole videos,
right. And all those
and
like
there was a documentary.
There
was a documentary about the tour because they had a bus accident, and they talked about like how the band got no bus. And I remember thinking like, this is fucking awesome. Like this is how you save CDs. But then of course,
CDs are inevitably the internet took over.
What happened is then YouTube comes, and then you can just watch all that shit for free because somebody rips it and puts it online. And now that value's gone. And
then Kazaa and all those places to download all the special features from everything kind of took over.
But merch is, like you said, the buckets is good. I if there was a, it's just a matter of whether or not it actually helps the industry, because you still have to pay for that shit. Then you're in a retail business. If it's like a t-shirt, no one's going to give a fuck. If it's, a piece of plastic, you'll find it on eBay a month later if you really want it. Honestly,
and how much does anyone really want those specific things?
Right.
Like that's also a thing, is like, it's really niche.
I think you need to up the quality of what you're giving out. Fucking hoodies, that kind of shit. And, limited while supplies last kind of stuff. Make them feel a little bit more custom. That way it's not like everybody gets the same 2XL. And if you're too large for that, too bad. If you're too small for that, too bad. Like, have some, I don't know, but then at the end of the day, you are just turning your movie business into a retail business.
And I think that's what's coming. I think toy stores are going to be, I think Deadpool is going to be the first huge one. We've got obviously some stuff, like Minions had things, like we've seen it. I think Deadpool is going to be full on action figures, shirts, buckets. I think we're going to see the KB toysification of movie theaters with this summer.
Right.
And I think that's a way to hemorrhage the bleeding. I think that's triage.
But it's also not new, because they did that shit with fucking Harry Potter. You go to the movie theater and they had but anyways.
I personally think sitting in a room with people is always a preference to,
of course,
sitting by myself. But that's my experience.
The real answer of what they offer is a crowd experience. The problem is the crowd experience has become diminished. And so it's a matter of,
how to fix the problem of people, which I don't know that they have the staff to do.
Well, we have plenty more time to sort that out.
Yeah,
we have
we'll
so many more calls.
Next call. But Gilbert, other than the homogenification concept, I agree with a lot of what you're saying here. I do think there is more flavors of ice cream in the store than you might have experienced. But you also admitted that you haven't been paying as close attention. So really appreciate the call, man.
Hello, Koicast. This is Mask Llama of the Legendary Fighting Federation. I was just calling to get my thoughts on the movie industry. I think for too long the movie industry has gone with bigger is better. It's extravagant. It's grandiose. Yes, there's 16 different screens in this theater. And yeah, you gotta pay $10 for a thing of popcorn, but it's a glorious time. Nah, man, that's just not what people are looking for right now. People are just looking for cozy. People can't afford glorious. So I think that's what the movie theaters need to do, is just make it feel more cozy. Like, I don't want 16 screens in a giant lobby. Make it smaller, intimate. Give me a smaller theater, 2, 3, maybe four screens. Cover your big stuff. Like popcorn, man. Popcorn's a ripoff. And you want popcorn. I want popcorn when I go to the movies, but I don't want to pay like $8 for a small popcorn. That's absurd. Give me a small bundle. Just be like, yeah, hey, $10, popcorn, movie, drink. Maybe a small popcorn. I just want the popcorn sensation.
Very hung up on popcorn.
Yeah, I don't know. Trim down. Make it feel smaller. Make it feel more intimate. Bring people back.
Popcorn.
It can't be this giant $20, $30 expenditure. It's hard to afford that these days. Yeah, I don't know. And these are all just random thoughts. I don't have like a degree in business or economics or even movies. I don't know. Anyway, hope you're all having a good day. Maybe by the time you've got this call, the movie sorted everything out. Later all. Bye.
Mass Llama. I agree. So this is to my point from the last episode. I think it does come down to like shit's expensive. Despite his acknowledgement that he doesn't have an economics degree, he has some good points and then some things that are flawed, because the reason that the movies are charging $10 for a fucking popcorn is because no one's coming to the fucking movies to see the movies. And
that's how they make, I think, I don't know the current number, but when I was at the theater, it was upwards of 70% of every dollar for the theater itself is off of concessions, because the box office is just paying rent. Like the box office half goes back to the studio and the other half is keeping the building like rented. And then all the employees, the lights, that's all popcorn.
You're talking about stand-up comedy. You're talking about music. Like, this is what everything used to. I'm not talking about music I'm not talking about Madison Square Garden, but like small venues, small theaters. When you go to stand-up, like, you think that your ticket to get in to see that person is how they make any money? No, not so ever. It's made on the food. It's made on the drinks. It's made on all the other shit. But with that said, I like the idea of the smaller theaters, but I think that they are doing that. I am seeing a lot of...
I'm seeing like 3 and 4 housers a lot more often.
I will say that part of the problem of the 16, we have 16 screens, is that what you said, rent. Those places are fucking enormous, and they're usually in places that are insanely expensive to have a theater.
And what's interesting now is even malls are falling apart and movie, like the actual retail space doesn't matter how big it is or small. It's just land. And I don't know what's going to take those spots over, except highly expensive housing, which is going to cause everything else to go up anyway. Like there's not really a solution for the size thing.
No. And there is something to be said that if you have a smaller space and get as many theaters as you can in there, this is where I do think you have an opportunity. There's always 4, 5, 6 new releases. Sometimes maybe there's only 2 or 3. But if some of these larger theaters did cut back on the size of their screens, had more theaters playing a wider variety of movies, not just new, but old.
Yeah.
I do think that would get people like me, because I know for a fact that if I wanted to go see fucking, I don't know, Fantastic Mr. Fox on a Friday night, that I'm not going to, that crowd that's going to be there is not going to fucking piss me off. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I bring that up because
that pissed off.
I'm bringing that up because literally that's what the Laemmle Theaters in LA, they would do like theme summers. And there was one summer years ago where they had a Wes Anderson themed summer, and every week was a different Wes Anderson movie. And we went to go see Fantastic Mr. Fox in a small little Laemmle Theater, and it was fantastic. And it was, 15 years after it was already out, however long ago it was. So I like that idea, but is it enough to like save the theaters? Like I think like the big ones might go away. Like
I think big ones will be only 1 or 2 per city, and only in the top like 12 cities. And then I see it more like an opera or theater where it's going to be smaller houses in more regional areas. So I think LA will keep like 3, 4. I think New York 3, 4, maybe Austin, but then any other city that's more regional, your Chicago's, your Toronto's, maybe like they have a big theater, and then most other cities are small. Like, I think it'll be kind of like a cascading down effect by population, because it's ratio. And also certain cities are more entertainment based. I was shocked at how Philly, I think we talked about, Philly is like an arts town. That might be a place where you wouldn't expect it by population, but they might have a theater because of the specific arts.
Right. Interesting.
But I'm scared in general.
All right, let's see what else we got.
Coy, Jandro, Jake Lloyd Bacon. How's it going? Name's Josh, calling from Charlotte, North Carolina. Just wanted to call, talking about the movie theater experience from this past episode. Wanted to bring up something that Coy used to talk about back in the day and kind of, connect some dots. Back in the day, Coy was a big advocate, and probably still is, comic books from the library. Going to the library, being able to pick up just whatever comic books they have, but also talk with the librarians and request the ones that they don't. I went through Saga that way, Why the Last Man Standing, quite a bit. The other thing, though, a lot of the libraries now are carrying Blu-rays. So if you're kind of wanting to scratch that, like, movie time itch, that might be the way to go, is just go to the library, peruse the shelves, see what they have available, look for a movie that you haven't seen before, grab it off the shelf. You're not sitting there endlessly scrolling through Netflix trying to find something to watch. You're just in the shelf. You're in the store, like, in your mind. But yeah, so that's all I got. The voicemail intro is hilarious. I encourage everybody to call into the hotline, if nothing else, to at least hear that. But yeah, that's all I got. Take care, fellas.
Josh from Charlotte, first-time caller. Thank you so much for calling, Josh. We love the first-time callers. Get that new blood.
And what a pleasant fellow. I like his vibes.
So I might have lost the thread there a little bit because he started talking about the theaters.
I think he was adding Blu-ray to the positivity of library. I think it was
but I feel like we started with theater. He started his thing about movie theater, and then he jumped to library. And I feel like I love this, but also wait, no, don't tell people that you could do this because we need the money.
With the theater, you just took money out of the pocket of the theater.
I love the local
What are you doing,
libraries.
Josh?
I support all the libraries that we can, but also stop giving away movies. Make people pay for this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, let's not tell everyone.
I'm gonna one up you here, Josh. Not only does your local library carry Blu-rays, and you do get that feeling of being a Blockbuster again, but you can also get that feeling of scrolling fucking Netflix, because if you download an app called Hoopla,
Hoopla's amazing.
Hoopla, you pretty much use whatever your local library card is to log into Hoopla, and then you get access to a library of fucking so many things. And I'm not talking about just about movies. Access to audiobooks, to, radio drama, to all sorts of TV, movies, videos, like any sort of media really there is. Comic books, is all there too. Like, I don't know. I'm curious to see how the library industry, which in itself is in trouble, but that's because of fucking politics,
government.
Really.
Yeah, that's more state issues. But I agree. Like the library, if we're going to be stealing out of the theater, is my favorite way to do it. I wish that, for example, say you get 5 movies from the library, then you imagine that money going to a theater ticket. Like that's how I always kind of rationalize things, is if I'm saving somewhere and I have a certain budget, where am I reallocating that budget to help something? And I loved our talk 2 weeks ago where Jake was talking about his bookstore thing. And I didn't realize that I kind of do that with the theater. I just didn't. It was subconscious. Like Jake's was more conscious. When I travel, if I've got a couple hours free, I'll find the smallest theater, or I'll find some sort of art thing, and I'll just be like, here's some money. Like I just want to help.
Right.
That said, I recently went and saw UFC 302 at the AMC, and I hadn't realized that was quite as big. It was a sold out show. Tickets were not available on A-list. I had to spend my own money. Like I had to actually buy a ticket. And it was $25 for a ticket.
It doesn't qualify under A-list because
it doesn't. Because I think it's under Fandango.
Fathom,
I think it's another company.
Fandango.
Yeah, it's either Fathom or Fandango. But either way, it was $25. And at first, I was like, "Fuck!" Like that's a lot of. It is a lot of money. Like I'm not denying it's a lot of money, but it's not only helping the theater; it's also showing the theater, "Hey, try this weird new thing out. Hey, this is something that's gonna have a crowd." And a UFC pass is $80. Like to watch the fight is $80. So my rationale was I just saved $55.
Totally.
It's costing me $25, but I'm also voting with my wallet. So if you're going to the library, that's allowing the publishers to see you vote with your wallet, because that actually pings the publisher, by the way.
Right.
Every time you rent a Marvel book, they get a list of their most rented books, and that helps the writers and artists. So that's great. But if you're going to save $200 renting Blu-rays, maybe throw $20 to a theater, and we call it even. I appreciate it.
Right. Did you just love seeing Dana White's giant head walk out with that orange piece of shit and giant screen?
There were jump scares, the likes of which the Black Phone could have learned lessons. The amount of times that fucker appeared in the middle distance staring vaguely through chainmail, because he's like sitting at the octagon. So they'll cut to like an angle of a fighter defending himself, and like the husk of convicts just behind bars. It was unnerving. It was funny though, because like I definitely am a pretty political person. I've tempered it for profit of late, but I definitely think by the time the election rolls around, I'm not going to be able to keep my mouth shut. It was funny though. At one point, I realized one of my favorite fighters leapt the fence to shake his hand, and I was like, "There's no fucking fighter I've ever met that would want to shake Biden's hand." I don't blame him. Like it was the one time I was like, "I hate them both." This is a moment where I at least acknowledge where a certain kind of person can appreciate you. And that put me in a weird spot politically. But it was a weird jump scare. I didn't enjoy him. 80 feet is too many feet of Trump.
It's all gross, and you're gross for being a part of it.
I like my violence public, Jake.
All right. Speaking of public violence, let's see what else we got in the hotline.
Hey, Coy. Hey, producer Jake. It's Louis from Houston, AOPW Figures on Instagram. You guys had a really great chat about movie theaters recently, and I kind of wanted to share one of the most unique experiences I ever had in a movie theater. It was the 2013 Academy Award movie marathon that AMC has. It's called the Best Picture Showcase. And what they would do is they would show all, and I know Jake probably loves this, all of the Best Picture movies in the movie marathon. It would either be split into two, so one half on one weekend, and then the following would show the other half. Or some selected cities would get one 24-hour movie marathon. And 1 year here in Houston, we got the one 24-hour movie marathon. So we did it, me and my family.
Ooh, wow.
And it was one of the coolest experiences just ever, to be in a movie theater for 24 hours. They gave us a lanyard. We would, we can go in and out as long as we had our lanyards. That was our pass to come back into the theater. There was prizes in between, trivia. So this is one of the most unique experiences ever. I got to see people's shift end from the concessions or the ticket takers and just saw the transition from people coming in and out. It was so much fun. Some of the movies I wish wouldn't have been those movies because some of them were a little slower in pace. So not the most thrilling movie marathon, but the experience all in all was great. And in case you're wondering, the marathon, it started with Lincoln. Then it was that French flick, Amour. And then I believe it was Argo. It was Silver Linings Playbook, Beast of the Southern Wild, Les Mis, Zero Dark 30. Gosh, I think I'm missing one too. Oh, and it was Life of Pi. Life of Pi was the only movie that they showed in 3D, so they gave us the glasses for it. But it was the one that started at 3 a.m, and I had already seen it before. So as soon as I put those glasses on, involuntarily, I just passed out. And again, just out of my control. I just so happened to wake up halfway through the credits. So I got my much needed rest during that movie. Then it was those glasses. Otherwise, I would have probably been able to do the 26 hours. But long story short, that was one of my most favorite movie experiences. I kind of wanted to hear if you guys, more so Coy, because I don't know if Jake has ever enjoyed himself at a movie theater.
Come on.
From what it sounds like. I love you, Jake. But do you guys have a story of like an experience where it was a movie or maybe seeing someone at the movie since you guys are sort of like involved in?
And it looks like Lewis here got cut off. He hit the limit. Listen, there's a 3-minute time limit on the Google Voice, so it cut him off.
That was a great message. I was like all in.
All right, so let's do this in parts here. So he's talking about he went to a 24-hour movie marathon of the best pictures. Some of the ones he named are Lincoln, Argo, Zero Dark 30. All I could say is that what a breath of fresh air Silver Linings Playbook must have been.
Yeah, the whirlwind of darkness, and then
at least it's like, because it is still heavy, but at least it's funny heavy.
Yeah, it's comedically dark.
Yeah, that sounds like
ominous.
It sounds like a nightmare to me not to be in a 24-hour marathon, but to be in a 24-hour marathon of just Best Picture winners. Now, if you give me a marathon of the Video Music Awards MTV Movies of the Year from like 95 to, whenever.
Nostalgia cons are going to be huge, dude.
That's a marathon I'd sit through, but the Oscars, meh.
We're dad age now, so this nostalgia bait from the 90s is going to be huge. I'm so excited for those. Like, you play 10 Things I Hate About You and Clueless back to back. You do fucking 12 of those movies, I'm all in.
I feel like we did talk about this once before, though. What was the movie marathon? Because you did one marathon for Marvel, I know, where you got to
I did the 23 on the road to Endgame, and I hosted it. But it was 3 days.
Have you ever done any where you weren't working? Did you ever just
I've done one, and I loved it. I did Cinespia's Slumber Party one year, and it was a drug-themed one. Okay. And it was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Half Baked, and Big Lebowski.
And was it, you say it was Slumber Party, does that mean it was like really late at night?
It was overnight. It's at the cemetery, so it didn't start until 10 p.m.
And that's interesting, though, because that's
10 p.m. till 7 a.m.
And the cemetery is not your typical theater experience.
But it's cool.
But, no,
it's a unique thing. Like,
I did the Indiana Jones, the 4, up until Kingdom Skull, and and it was right when that had come out, so it was already out for like 2 or 3 weeks. So a lot of people had already seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I had not yet, and that was the first time that I know for a fact I sat down and watched all of the Indiana Joneses from beginning to end, because I'd seen most of them previous to that just on TV through the years. Yeah. And that was, it was such a fun experience. It really was. Like, I really enjoyed that marathon. I definitely feel like if you're gonna do one, you gotta just get lucky with what the theater is. Because I will say we were not in great seats for the first 2. And then it wasn't until some people started bailing that some of the better stuff, like we were too close.
Yeah.
At
so
the
you see
start
options,
of it,
you run back like
and
hour 10.
But and then of course our best seats were for Kingdom Crystal Skull because the whole fucking place emptied. But
But I've done like Nolan. I've done Nolan fests where it's like 4 Nolan movies. I've done like director gatherings. Like I mean, I'm unique though because LA allows us to do that sort of thing, and I feel like most audience members won't get that. But that said, what you're describing is exactly the idea, making it special. Like what's unique about? Because you can watch 5 Blu-rays at home, but that's not like a special day. That's just like
and you're not there.
Tired.
And you also can't. You're not looking at all the other people around you and going like, "This is crazy. We're in this, right?"
You're not cheering that you're like
also,
you just survived something.
You also like make friends with like the people nearby, and it's that's
because you eat with them, sleep near them. Like the 3 days of Marvel was insane.
I do like that he noted like I got to see the shift change, which I've seen too many movies, so my thought immediately went to now you know how to rob the place.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is the weak time.
You know when the guards shift and who gets the key and how to give, and you're gonna get all the popcorn. Oh man, Mas Lama's gonna be so happy. He's obsessed with popcorn. That guy.
Popcorn is apparently your or Gil's bait and switch. Yours is just longevity.
Right.
I think that you've got a marathon versus sprint mentality, and I respect it. You're like, if the movie can go 4 days, I want to see some unreleased director's cuts. I think that'd be a thing I'd like. Like I've seen Blade Runner, I think twice, but I've never seen the longest version in theaters. So something where they like The Abyss. I finally saw The Abyss. We talked about it. I'd love to see that there. Yeah. So things like that, I think, are worth that. Like,
I think,
take.
Yeah, what they should do. I mean, this is where you get these companies that are streamers involved, where you get Paramount, and it's like, here's a Paramount. We're gonna do a big Paramount movie. Get Universal to do their own. Disney can do their own. Like all these companies can do their own. A24 could probably fucking do great with this sort of thing. Like they're
releasing A24 movies this summer, like one a week.
Oh, see, and that's what I'm talking about. Like eventizing movies that have been out. I think that's one of the things I keep coming back to.
And it's all profit because you've already made the money you needed or not. But either way, you're not counting on this new money.
Now, he did ask favorite positive movie experiences. And by the way, I have had plenty of great movie experiences. It's just they haven't been lately. Okay?
Yeah.
I think...
please.
I mean, so I know... So 2 of my favorite movie experiences when... we're going way back now when I was in like college years and my friend and I went to go see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That to me, we didn't have a lot of other Kevin Smith friends, and the internet was around, but I wasn't using it. This was kind of right before I jumped on the VA boards. I didn't have like a community, and you go to some random theater on Long Island to see Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back at 1 a.m, opening night, like or whatever it was, like midnight for the Thursday kind of thing. And the place is packed with other like-minded, like View Askew nerds.
Yeah.
And every joke and everything. And it's just like that. I'll never forget that. And also being with my buddy Jesse way back, like that was such a fun experience. Another one that I could think of for sure, and I say this, it's probably the best experience I've ever had in a movie theater for a movie that I didn't really like. And that was The Force Awakens. Like seeing
it's just a celebration.
Seeing The Force Awakens on opening night and seeing the Falcon and seeing Harrison Ford. And it wasn't until it was over and I started sitting and going, but wait a minute, why did they do that? Didn't make sense. Like in the moment, you're fooled because it's fucking Star Wars.
So magical.
And the sounds, and the fucking characters. And there's fucking Chewie. He's finally on screen again. And, but that was an incredible, and the theater was great. It was a great experience as far as like the crowd was awesome. I've definitely had some really, really good ones.
I used to go when I first moved to LA, and some of this is nostalgia for like when you have more time than money and you realize that and you actually act on it. I now have less time and less money. So I look back on my first few years in LA when I was like a starving actor, and there's a $2 theater in Pasadena. And I remember we used to do 4 movies for $8.
Wow.
And I would just be there. So we'd basically wait until movies were secondhand and see everything in 2 weekends. So I'd see an entire month's worth of movies for like $8.
There used to be that one in North Hollywood too. That was
it's the same company. I forget what it's called. But it was the same one in Pasadena.
No,
it was Lemley. No,
it's not Lemley.
Cinemark. No, what was it? Damn it, I don't remember. But I know it was the same company because I used to like look at times.
And it was always movies that had been in the theaters 3 months earlier.
And it was okay.
And they were $1 to that. You know what? That was a fun experience. I went to one of those with my buddy Tony Wayne, and we went and saw Rock of Ages. And the entire theater, listen, it's not a racial thing. It's just a situation. It was us 2 white guys and then a bunch of Hispanic and Latinx people, taking their families to the fucking movies, and hearing a bunch of middle-aged Spanish-speaking men sing along to 80s rock and not know any of the words and get all of them wrong. Listening to the guy behind me was belting "We Built This City," but literally did not know. It was all like English phonetically.
The sounds of the words,
yeah,
not
English.
the words.
It's probably like when people, like if German people would hear me like sing the Rammstein, and I'm just getting everything wrong.
Me trying to sing like French songs. I'm just saying sounds.
Fuck, that was so much fun. Also, that movie
is a blast.
The bar was low, and so it was just fun because it's like, I didn't go there because we didn't see Lincoln there. And it was playing. I had an entire
Tom Cruise themed birthday that ended with that movie because of how much I love watching that movie with the group. I think Rock of Ages is such a good 20-person movie to just like have a time.
Sure.
That said, the night would always end with a throwback movie. We do it on a Saturday, so I remember we watched 4 new movies, and then it was like Lost Boys at midnight or Jurassic Park at midnight, so the whole day was just a celebration. We just like pop out, get Chipotle back when they used to actually serve you enough food, and then come back in. But that's like more recent. And then when I was a kid. The first time I saw comic movies was always special. I know that's what everybody expects from me, but like seeing X-Men and not understanding how I was 12. So it's like, I can't believe these characters are on screen before I started like looking at them so analytically. It was just like Wolverine. So those memories are really strong. And Dune recently, Dune 2 was a really special theatrical experience. Just the sound and emotion that comes out of the screen when it's a good theater is like nothing else. So I got a lot, man. I love the theater.
Do you remember what your first bad movie experience was?
I was brought to a horror movie with my mom because she didn't know it was a horror movie, and it left me so scared that for I think 3 years I was afraid of closing my eyes. So the movie theater, it came out in 93. It was a movie called Blink. So I was 5, and it is a movie where Emma is an attractive girl in her 20s who has been blind for 20 years. A new type of eye operation partially restores her sight, but she is having problems. Sometimes she doesn't remember what she's seen until later. So this girl sees through the eyes of a murderer whose eyes replaced hers, and I was 5. So for a while, whenever I'd blink, I'd think I'd see people dying.
Great.
The theater, it being so immersive and enveloping really messed me up because it was so dark that I'd close my eyes in the movie and it would make it worse.
Right.
So my bad experience was childhood trauma.
Right. That's great. My
mom was 21 at the time. In fairness, she didn't know better. I was a child.
Babies having babies. I did not go to the movies a lot as a kid. We just didn't go. We weren't a go to the movie family. My mom wasn't going to pay for that shit. She would only ever take us to like the dollar ones, right? And so it was movies that were older, that were out, or that
yeah.
And so it wasn't until I was probably 14 that I remember what my I think I might have told the story on the pod before, but my mom's boyfriend at the time, Bruce, took me to go see Batman and Robin. And it was the very first time that I think I really truly and I know 14, probably a late bloomer, but was really like analytical about like,
Uma Thurman's hot.
This was a bad movie. Like this was like
interesting.
Like I remember having like it was like the first time where I thought to myself like
something can be not good.
Just
like you
because
can have
it's Batman doesn't mean it's good. Do you know? Whereas I feel like before then,
that's a Zack Snyder fan.
Well, all right, hey, that sounds like a Jake Blood Bacon line there. Good job, Coy. But I do feel like that's kind of like maybe the first time I remember like being kind of quiet throughout and being like. All right. Because I do also remember going and seeing Batman Forever, and I remember just fucking loving Jim Carrey. And like, I remember seeing the movie in theaters, but I don't remember anything other than like Jim Carrey was so fun. Right. Because that was also, I'm however many years prior, 1, 2, 12, 13. So like, I'm probably 14, maybe 13, depending on when Batman and Robin came out. And I just remember being like, oh, some movies aren't good. And then like I was just broken from that point on.
Oh, that's so. And now
it
here
was
we
like
are.
the childhood innocence was just gone.
You
that
could not
day.
sanction its buffoonery, and it just changed you.
And a little late. A little late in my opinion for like age wise.
Yeah, I think that's a very healthy age to be like, wait, I can critique. It's you got to have your childhood joy until your teen years.
You know what? I have talked about this in therapy before, and I had such problematic relationships as a child that I hung on to the escapism of things longer than most people did. So I wouldn't allow myself to criticize the things that were my escapes. So like all video games were great, all movies were great, all TV shows were great, you know what I mean? Like even if it was something I didn't enjoy doing, I had to pretend like I enjoyed doing it. Sports,
100%.
Playing certain sports that I played when I was a kid, where I was like, this is great. Boy Scouts, hated that, but I had to tell myself it was great because it kept me out of the family environment. So
I live in post-plague, late-stage capitalism America, so I talk about comics for a living, Jake. I understand.
Very good point. Very good point.
All right, we got another call?
You know what? We have a couple, but we are going late, so I think we're going to take just one more because we have, I want to give a shout out to Callum. We haven't heard from him in a while. Callum from the UK called us a message. We'll take yours next time because it's not on topic.
Okay, cool.
But we'll save that, Callum. We do appreciate you checking in, but let's take this last call, and then we have to pick a new gift horse for the month.
Ooh.
All right.
Hey guys, this is David calling from Birmingham, Alabama. I really appreciate you answering my questions about the Mr. Miracle casting. Super awesome. You know, hopefully we can get something soon. I also thought it was interesting the comparison of movie theaters to bookstores that Jake made last episode. It really made me more conscious on how to support not just independent artists, creators, but also these theaters, big and small. So with that, I wanted to get your thoughts on crowdfunding, things like Kickstarter, backer kits, stuff like that. I really became aware of it during COVID. I know many creators were losing work, so I was commissioning basically small pieces from any artist I could find on social media, the internet, through my friend group, just because I wanted to provide some form of work and then sharing it so that it could give them some income and a way to continue working through that hard time. So I figured it was the least I could do during the time for the industry that I love. And so it led me to Kickstarter, and that's when I was supporting, you know, mainly comics and artists. But I saw there's everything from fan films to actual movies and stuff like that too. So just wanted to get your thoughts on crowdfunding in general. Are you a fan of it, or, you know, do you support any as well? Also, if I can, I wanted to give a shout out to one of my best friends, Henri Compen, who remarkably favors Gigi Allen. If you don't know who that is, look it up. Crazy cat. He created a comic book series called Warline that's kick-ass, packs an emotional punch while providing some of the best sequential action, like layouts and all kinds of stuff. Next issue's coming out to Kickstarter, so I had to do a little plug. So I appreciate y'all. Stay sweaty and talk soon.
David from Alabama asking us about crowdfunding. I, for one, think it's disgusting and shameful, and make sure you check out patreon.com/Koicast, where you can throw us just a couple bucks a month and get
our hands are open and our mouths are hungry.
Yebbity scrabbity doo. Anyways, thank you so much for the call. By the way, David, listen, I have my gripes about Alabama, but I have no gripes about the way you say theater, my young man.
Yeah, that was smooth. I felt like McConaughey was telling me a story. I enjoyed that, like, lustrous butter of the South.
Love supporting them theaters. Ooh, like a
Respect.
smooth molasses just spilling out your mouth.
That said, I do want to talk about his point on Kickstarter that it is a great way to support art itself.
Sure.
I think crowdfunding, I mean, guys, we put in, I would say, 20 hours of just time per pod, and then the actual pod is like an hour. And so we literally, if we didn't have any sort of Patreon, that would be, you know, negative thousands of dollars a month. The Patreon just makes it so it's like, well, I guess I can rationalize this being a thing. And that's because of you guys. Like, there is nothing we actually get out of the podcast. Like, I do a lot of work on a lot of...
each other.
We hate it so much.
Oh my God.
No, it's literally like, why am I looking at this face? No, but they're like, there's no monetary backing to any of this. And we don't have ads. You don't hear about Blue Chew or AG1 not in the show because you guys support it. So I think it's a great way to keep some integrity in pods. I think it's a great way to keep some earnest, like, wanting to watch and share things. So I think it's a great format, and I really appreciate the fact that you made such a statement about, like, I want to support the arts. This is why I'm doing it. And we have a Patreon. So if you want to keep supporting the arts.
Yeah, I remember when, like, the Kickstarter GoFundMe for movies started popping up and all of my friends started doing it. I was a little bitter about it at first because I had no interest in making things that weren't my own IPs, and all of my friends were. So all of my friends were, and they've done great work. Like shout out to my buddy Julian Higgins, Zach Finfrock. They made the Fallout a short film that turned into a Fallout web series, and like they were super successful on indie. Was it? I think theirs was Kickstarter at first. Like, and there's all of these other people who kind of have these like, oh, we're making a fan film, and this isn't going to get done unless we tap into that community and be like, hey, do you want to see a good, there was a Mortal Kombat one that was pretty good a while back. So I, in fairness, was a little bitter because I did feel like, well, nobody cares about my shitty fucking story.
So it was just the personal comparison more than the actual format.
But the reality is when I step aside from my own personal bitterness, it really ultimately does come down to like, it's a way to democratize the pre-production part of filmmaking. Like, hey, I know a studio is not going to give me this much money to make something, but if I could sell directly to the consumer, it's really no difference than, listen, I know he's a problematic person. A lot of our listeners probably don't like him. I'm going to give him credit for a business thing he did. Louis C.K. Louis C.K. was so sick of the fucking record companies and sick of the shitty distribution that he pretty much just went like, hey, I recorded a new stand-up album. Here's the website.
Here is a way to get it.
And give me whatever you want. He literally did. Yeah. And he said he made so much more money that way than he ever made from actually distributing it through a publisher. So I'm all for it. I do think it's tough because like everything, it's now just a form of social media.
It is actually like a medium, and it's not just a thing.
And it's become, unfortunately, like, well, here's the way you do a Kickstarter. I've made a game. I've made a tabletop game, and I've had multiple people tell me like, you should just kickstart the game because I don't need much. Really, what I need right now to get my game done is I just need an artist who's willing to do a little bit of work for either a percentage or for very, 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 very low money. And everybody's like, why don't you just do a Kickstarter, raise that money? The reason why I don't do it is because I know people who have done Kickstarters and it becomes a full-time job. It's no different than you being like, I want to grow my YouTube channel. I'm like, good. That's now what you do.
I now have 3 jobs. Like I now have every job, and then YouTube itself is another job. And so would Kickstarter be.
And it's kind of unfortunate because it does feel like yet another thing that has been dissected via algorithm and that has all the humanity's kind of been sucked out of it. And it's now just, this is what you do to succeed. It's
plug and play, and here's the lifeless version. Yeah.
And I do feel like that's kind of unfortunate, but also if it works, who am I to say that's not a great way to go about it? If that's the path you're willing to take and you want to get a movie made that way, or you want to be a part of it, it's also a great way for people who maybe don't see themselves as the creative types, but who want to be a part of projects. Like I've got a friend.
Your name and credits feels cool as hell.
I'm going to give a shout out to a gentleman that I met through, speaking of the VA boards, I met through the View Askew boards, probably 20 fucking years ago now. Gavin at Morgan. I don't think he listens to the pod, but if he does, I'm giving him a shout out. Gavin is one of those people who all he wants is to help people make things. He's not a wealthy guy for all I know. I mean, I'm pretty sure he worked at a movie theater for the majority of his adult life. If not, he still does. And anytime I was working on a project, Gav would be like, what can I do to get an associate producer credit? And it was literally just like, can I give you $200? Can I buy people lunch on set that day? And the reality is Kickstarter and Indiegogo and things like it have made that for people who aren't your immediate personal friends.
Yeah.
And
people that hear and listen to us right now have that ability without having to know us.
100%.
And it helps us, and they feel connected, which is beautiful.
And if you look, Gavin, my buddy Gavin, has a credit on every one of my projects, because in every one of my projects, he's been like, hey, I don't have a lot of money, but here's a couple bucks to help you do it. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. That you get that credit, that you are a part of that project as much as anybody else is, because this is a thing that you have no benefit. You benefit in no way other than hopefully you like the thing I made.
Yeah. And I think that is art, right? Like that's what art is. That's the less commodified algorithm version of what we're talking about. So you can get the patron saint of whomever feeling still. It's just harder to find.
Well, from people who may get nothing out of something to people who get a little bit of something.
Nicely done.
It is time to name our June Unpunchable Gift Horse of the month. We want to, of course, give a shout out to Doug, who is our May Unpunchable Gift Horse. Hopefully he, talked a lot of shit.
Sure he did.
And got everything out because nobody was able to hit him. So I hope he took advantage of that. But it is time to spin the wheel to find out who our June gift horse is. If you don't know what the hell we're doing, you got to head on over to patreon.com/KoiCast and become a gift horse tiered patron. You are entered into this monthly contest. The winner gets to select a little something for us to watch and talk about over on the Patreon Only Pod. You get your name up in lights if you're in the Discord. And, of course, you get an item you're choosing from the shop over at dragonwagonshop.com. If you haven't checked out the shop in a while, listeners, please do. There's tons of really great stuff in there. We've got awesome hoodies. We've got phone cases. There's t-shirts. There's a lot of really good merch. We got some hats, some nice stuff in there. Get yourself some nice new summer duds. Weather's getting warmer. You're going to need yourself maybe a new t-shirt or a new hat.
We got 'em.
New phone case because your old one's all beat up and you want to have a nice new shiny KoiCast phone case. All right, without further ado, wheel is a spinning. The wheelofnames.com, no sponsorship, has spun, and the gift horse of the month for the month of June is Gilbert Shorts. Gilbert,
after we talked all that smack, Gilbert comes in.
He's on the board. Gilbert wins like every other month. It's like, geez Louise, give someone else a chance, Gilbert. No, Gilbert, his last victory was August of 2023.
It's been almost a year.
This is, I think, his fifth. In fairness, that first year we did it, he did win like
he
every
really
other month.
crushed. That first year was something special.
But, this just goes to show you, kids, that there's no limit to the amount of times you can become an unpunchable gift horse. Every single month that you are a gift horse tier patron, you are entered into this contest. Thanks so much, Gil. Thanks to everybody who continues to support the podcast over there on the Patreon. It really is the best way to support the show. And when I tell you that your Patreon dollars go a long way, Coy said it. We literally could not do this at this point in time in our respective lives and careers without that. So you guys are keeping the podcast alive single-handedly. Well, not single-handedly, multiple-handedly. However many patrons.
Every one of your hands.
However many patrons there are handedly.
And you got lightweight, right? Like it adds up and it's really appreciated. So thank you. Whether you contribute $5 or if you're a gift horse, like it all really, really allows this to exist because, man, I'm tired, but I love doing this and I really appreciate you guys making it possible. So that is going to do it for this week's episode. Do check out KoiCast.com for all those things. You can listen to episodes there. You can check out merch there. There's a whole world over there. Also, please do call in and be our co-host. If you guys have anything about the movie theater you want to share, I loved this conversation today.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool.
For all the people
you guys inspired a whole episode. Like, that's so special. And you guys can be a part of it by calling in at 818-794-0722. That's 818-794-0722. Or you can send a voice memo to contact@koicast.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks where we'll be pretty deep into June, approaching Comic-Con season. So I'll probably know more about what I'm doing in San Diego. We'll probably know more about what the summer looks like. We'll be that much closer to Deadpool. It's heating up, you lovelies, in many ways. So we'll see you then. And if you're a patron, we will be here both weeks between diving into all sorts of art. And we are finally virtually caught up on Gift Horse picks for the first time in 2 years. And it feels good.
We're never caught up because you don't know that last month's already gave us. And now we're going to have another one. So we already have two. Stop saying we're caught up. It doesn't. There is no such thing.
It's the closest we've ever been. It feels nice.
There's no.
I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
There's no light. It's the tunnel just keeps going because the podcast keeps a rolling on.
Podcasters, I see a light, and I hope it's not a train. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Scott and I are here, along with
Jake Lloyd Bacon.
We're both actors and comedians, but far more importantly, we're both professional wrestling fans.
Pro wrestling is a blast. It is over the top. It is ridiculous. It is comedic, dramatic, and everything in between.
And so is our show.
Yeah, we talk about wrestling new, old, it's evergreen over on Pro Wrestling Palskis.
So tune in at pwpalskis.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.